We're back with the purple behind because honestly, I can never decide what color I like behind. You guys, like, should I do different colors? Should I do like a different color for every episode? Should I have it just like blinking in the background? Like it does like a little like whoa, whoa kind of blink thing? Like, please tell me you understand what I'm saying. I don't know. I don't know what to do with the background. I don't know. Anyways, what we're talking about today, and my computer is about to die, so I did a great job planning ahead, is shifting your subconscious mind. I'm just gonna turn down the brightness a little so that she doesn't die. Shifting your subconscious mind. So, I'm a neuroscience girl. If people don't already know this, I'd say it in every episode that I talk about brain stuff because, you know, if this is the first episode you're watching, subscribe, please. Welcome. Hi, I'm Alessia. And also, yes, I am a neuroscience undergrad. I'm in my sophomore year right now, so we still got a little ways to go. But I have learned a few things that I have been really enjoying talking about on the podcast. So we're going to get into it a little bit. So your subconscious brain is part of your system 1 processing system. So there's system 1 and there's system 2. Basically, the way that I look at it is system 1 is your subconscious and system 2 is your conscious. So system 1 processing is fast and often reactive. You don't usually even know what's happening, anything like that. Like all of the things that we think of when we think of our subconscious mind. So the way that system 1 processing even happens is through things like your bias, different biases, the way your environment, the way you grew up, all these different things that affect your mindset, and the way that your neural pathways have been created. So I think of, and this is actually an analogy that my mom made, so shout out to her, but I think of the brain as like it's a wagon, and it's a wagon going through dirt, gross dirt, soft dirt, okay? And if you have a wagon and it goes through the same path every time, right? That path, like this is soft dirt, the path is going to get like deeper and deeper and deeper, and it's going to be like super easy to go on that path eventually because the path is right there, it's already made, and the trail is right there. So that I think of as like our subconscious habits, thoughts, anything like that. So when you are shifting your subconscious mind, think about that wagon again. It's going to be really hard to go on a different path. Like if you have a path that is already made, or if you can think of it as like being in the woods or something too. Like if you have a path that's already made and there's no other routes, like it is hard to get your wheels off of this path that has been gone over so many different times. And it's like the path is there. It is so clear to see. And you're trying to go on a different one. You're trying to make your own. Like that's going to be hard. Because though that path is so deep, like the wheels have their spot, like it is so hard to change that. So that to me is what I think of when I think of the brain and the neural pathways, is that the more you do something, the more you repeat something, the more it strengthens that pathway in your brain of thinking like, well, this is how we do it, right? So even if you're looking at kids and developmentally, when you, for example, if they're whining or having a tantrum about something and you just give in and you're like, oh, you know what, I don't want to deal with this, let me give it to them. They're going to do it again because it worked last time. Like even if they're not consciously thinking about that, like, this worked last time, so I'm going to try it again. Subconsciously, their brain, it did something. It had a reaction. It had it did something. It had a reaction and it worked. It got what it wanted. So automatically the kid is gonna, your child is gonna do the same thing again. So you can think about it developmentally, you can think about it in that pathway, you can think about it however you want, but that is what I think of when I think of the neural pathways, is basically the more you repeat something, the more it's going to be easier for that to happen, and the harder it is to be changing something. So in shifting your mindset, your subconscious mindset, it's not an easy thing. It's an entire process, and I'm going to go through the gist of that process, or just what I've learned and how I've shifted my own mindset through the years. So, okay, the first step is to become aware of your subconscious mind. If you're pressing on this video, you probably are at least somewhat aware that you want to shift your subconscious mind. But if you're not, and you just pressed on it because the thumbnail looked nice, or you just thought it looked cool, thank you. That's awesome. Love it. And do you feel like you need to shift some subconscious habit or pathway or anything like that? So, for example, some pathways I've had to shift are biases, stereotypes, different things like that society just kind of brings up. And when you don't question it, you don't question it. And then suddenly it's like, wait a second, I don't actually believe that. Why am I suddenly reacting that way? So again, the subconscious mind is often very reactive and you don't even realize that it's going on. So the first step is becoming aware to it. Another thing that I had to deal with a lot is different habits. When I was sick with pandas disorder, if you don't know about that, there's an episode on that on my channel. But when I was sick with pandas disorder, I struggled a lot, and I built a lot of habits that were maybe coping for me at the time, but they weren't necessarily healthy coping. And so I had to go through and I had to work with a counselor and go in depth through all of these different habits that I had and shift it. So that's a little bit more of a habit. So you have to actually shift the action too. But we're really just going to be looking at the mindset part of it right now. So becoming aware of the subconscious mind or whatever it is that you're trying to shift is that first step. And one of the ways that I've become aware of it is through things like getting to know myself. So meditating, I love my meditation. I know some of you might roll your eyes at this because if you don't like meditating, you don't like meditating and it's not fun and you don't want to do it. There are other ways too, but I will always, always love meditating and is one of my number one recommendations other than the second option, which is get a counselor. I believe that counselors are for everyone. I truly believe that everyone should have a counselor. So get a counselor. It's great. It's great. Just like we have a doctor, a primary care doctor, just like someone that we go in for general checkups with, counselors are good too. They're just, instead of for your physical health, they're for your brain health. I think that it's really important, but we can have different opinions on that. That's fine. And then just really staying in tune with your subconscious mind is starting to do things like journaling, even just sitting down and just realizing okay, what am I thinking about? The next time you have a reaction to something that doesn't necessarily make sense, be like, why? Why did that happen? Just really, really creating a habit of questioning what you do, how you react, how you think, and getting in that habit of being let's think about this. Let's figure this out. Another thing that I do that's really helpful is reflecting on the day. I'll go through and be like, what was helpful today? What was maybe not helpful? And all these different things. So for example, if I have a bad day or something, I'll reflect back on the day and be like, maybe why? Was there something that started that bad day? Was there something that I kind of reacted to a little bit there without realizing? And also, how did I respond to that? I am a big overthinker and I'm also very hard on myself. So if I was having a bad day, how did I respond to myself about that? Was I hard on myself? Because that's going to make it worse. Was I difficult? Was I, just being hard on myself and telling myself you shouldn't be having a bad day. Why is this happening? Was I overthinking it? All of these different things. That is a big one that I do and a big one that I'm working at. And just really paying attention to it. So that first step is to really start recognizing your actions, your thoughts, and your emotions, and just start becoming aware of that. And honestly, you can practice this throughout the day. If you make it a goal of yours to shift your subconscious mind, just make the first step being I'm just going to recognize, what am I thinking? So even, middle of class when you're bored and it pops up in your mind, be like, oh wait, what am I feeling right now? What am I thinking right now? Just all of those questions, just taking a moment to just kind of look at your life a little bit from the outside point of view or a little bit objectively and thinking, what is going on in my mind right now? And I feel to me, that's the first step. That's the first thing that has always helped me is you're not going to be able to change anything if you're not becoming aware of it first. So the second step is figuring out, do you even need to shift your mind? Is this something you actually need to do? The things that I ask myself are, when is the time that I felt good in life? What were my habits surrounding me about? What was my mindset? who was surrounding me, all of these different things that may have contributed to feeling better. So for example, maybe I was around a group of people that I absolutely love and I felt really good in life. Maybe I was responding to my anxiety meds great. And I just felt really great I just felt really great at the time. All these different things that what contributed to it? Maybe I was on a trip and it was something new that I really loved, And then looking on the other end of it, and when have you not felt very good in life? When have things been difficult, and what was surrounding that, And instead of thinking about maybe the people around you in that one, think about more like, what was your mindset? What was holding you back? That's a big one. Is there something that is holding you back? What, all of these different things. And so looking at maybe a pattern of, I don't feel good when. So for example, I don't feel good when I am hard on myself. I am an overthinker and I'm usually hard on myself without even realizing it. And then someone has to ask me, like my counselor or my mom has to ask me, are you being hard on yourself right now? And I have to sit down and be like, oh yeah, I am. Like, I don't even realize it. So really thinking like, and then in your current day right now, what's holding you back? What is something that you wish you would do that you're not doing? What is something that you are striving for? Is there a passion that you want to go after? Is there a dream that you have that you want to go after? Is there some sort of new creativity thing? Do you want to change your major? Are you not happy at your job right now? All of these different things. And looking at like, what is holding you back? What is holding you back from improving, from growing, from learning? And maybe it's as simple as, my mindset hasn't been great right now. Maybe you just are feeling a little bit more negative and that's what you want to shift. All of these different things to kind of look at and be like, what is it that's going on? Just again, really figuring out what's going on in my life right now. It's the first step. Just really figuring out like, I'm just going to be a little bit more aware of how I am right now in my surroundings right now. So then, once you figure out your general outlook on life, the general things that you need to be working on, all of these different things, we ask the question of how do you actually begin to shift your subconscious mind? Now, this can be done any time of the day, this next, step process that I'm going to be talking about. But I would say that the best time, just knowing how the brain works, the best time would be to do it in the morning and before bed. You can do it more than that, you can do it less than that. However, it can be up to you, your process, your timeline, all of that. But in the morning and at night, your brainwaves are in a different state and your brain tends to be a little bit more plastic. So what I mean by that is neuroplasticity. So just a quick little rundown on what neuroplasticity is. It is the idea that the brain is able to reorganize and shift and accommodate for different situations. So like that idea that I said of having a wagon going through a pathway, if the brain wasn't plastic, if the brain wasn't able to, and what I mean by plastic, I don't mean like actual plastic, like I hope people realize that. What I mean is it's neuroplasticity. But that idea that like if we didn't have neuroplasticity, we wouldn't be able to shift that. That would be the pathway. And so the idea is that like you can shift that because it is incredible to see the way that the brain changes. There's like so many different things that I could go into here on how neuroplasticity is just this incredible thing that has been studied so much, and it's amazing. But just think of it as simple as growth mindset. The fact that things change, your mindset changes, the way you do things change, your habits change, all of these different things because your brain is constantly changing. And so there, in the morning and at night, your brain is in a different wavelength. Your brain has a different wavelength at that time, and it is more open to that change, or it is a little bit more neuroplastic and it can maybe change in a little bit of an easier thing, in an easier way. All of this to say that you can do it during the day. I didn't know anything about neuroplasticity when I began the first time going through my subconscious mind and trying to shift stuff. And I did it during the day, maybe sometimes before bed, I don't know. And it worked great still. So that's not saying that you can't do it during the day. It's just saying that that is a recommendation because it could be helpful and maybe it won't be. We'll see. So that's my first recommendation there, is all of these things that I'm going to talk about, all of these shifts in your mindset, they might work better in the morning or at night, but it's up to you. And, everyone is a little bit different. The things that I have found that are helpful is, number one, challenging your thoughts. My mom loves to play devil's advocate with me. Whenever I have any situation that I'm like, this is it, she's like, well, what if it's not? Just challenging it. And don't get me wrong, it sometimes bothers me like crazy, and she knows it. But I've grown up with that devil's advocate there, even if she agrees with me, which most of the time she does. But she will still challenge it because, she believes, and in turn I ended up really seeing the effects of this, and also believing that to challenge, to really believe in something or to really be sure of something, you really have to challenge it. You really have to look at all the different sides. So if you are in a situation where you're feeling very negative and you're like, I don't want to do this. This is like stupid, this and that. Sit down and be like, you know what? I'm going to challenge myself here. Challenge yourself and be like, what if it's not? Or maybe it doesn't feel worthwhile, but what am I learning? Maybe I'm learning patience. Maybe I'm doing all these different things. Just challenge yourself. Or be like, I'm going to challenge myself to not complain. Even the simple thing of saying, I'm not going to actually complain. Because by not doing something, you are still changing that pathway a little, because you are consciously being like, okay, I want to complain, but I'm not gonna. You can still feel the same way, but you're not gonna complain. It actually does a lot, especially if you make a habit of it. It is really empowering and really helpful. My computer just died during that. Oopsies. I'm hoping that the last recording worked. Wait a second. Let me look at that. So the next thing that I have on my list here is challenging yourself by new ideas. This one is so important to me. Step out of your comfort zone. Hang out with people that you don't usually hang out with. Hang out with people who have different views as you. And I'm not saying you have to adopt these views or anything, but really challenge what it is that you're looking at, because sometimes we can be surrounded by so much of just the same thing or so much of what we're used to that we don't even realize that there might actually be other things right there in front of our face. This was really important to me. For example, when I moved into college, when I started college, I was around different people that I wasn't used to, and it challenged my ideas. Being just in a different city has really challenged my ideas on things. Just being around different types of scenarios really challenges your ideas. So again, by challenging yourself, like I said in the last advice. So like I said, by challenging yourself, one way to do this is by surrounding yourself by new ideas, surrounding yourself by things that you might not necessarily agree with, and actually making yourself a little bit uncomfortable with that, because it really makes you, you don't have a subconscious process for that because you've never experienced it before. So it really challenges you to sit down and think about it and be like, wait a second, and it really challenges you to think about what it is that you're doing too. So like if you're a negative person, surround yourself by someone who is very positive. For example, I had one professor that I absolutely was like, I love this professor, like they're great, right? And I had someone else come and sit next to me that I didn't actually know at the time. I actually really did not like the professor. But I was so excited about the professor that this person and I started to get to be friends, and I was talking about how much I love the professor, and this actually later she told me made her think about it and be like, wait a second, Alessia really loves this professor, why don't I? And really made her think about it and be like, okay, let me give it another try. And now she actually loves the professor too. So again, things can change. The brain has a lot of neuroplasticity, all of these amazing things, and just being able to really recognize that and challenge yourself with those ideas. So another way to do that as well is to step out of your comfort zone, which I already kind of talked about, but it's on my list. So I'll just state it here, is step out of your comfort zone. And then some other ones, be kind to yourself. Find routines and habits that set you up for success. I really, really think this one is important. And I feel like I talk about it in a lot of the videos, but it is really important. And I do really believe that if you find yourself, if you really focus on being kind to yourself, it's going to make you look at life a little bit differently. You know, if you're trying to shift some subconscious mindsets that are maybe not the best maybe are not the best things to have, or the best mindsets to have, the best habits to have, all of these different things, being able to be kind to yourself is really helpful, because you are being kind to yourself by learning more about yourself, spending that time to get to know yourself, and also recognizing like, yeah, I'm shifting this mindset, and that's difficult and that's hard and that's okay. Like it's a process. Don't expect it all to happen in one day. So with that too, just really being careful about practicing gratitude, recognizing the energy around you. You know, if you are trying to get out of negative habits and you're surrounded by negative people, it's going to be really hard to get out of that. That was one thing that I think probably one of the first things that I tried to shift in my subconscious mindset. And I didn't really know that it was my subconscious mind at that point, but that was one of the biggest things that, like, one of the first things that I ever tried to shift was I felt like I was a very negative person, and I was surrounded by a lot of negative people. And when I changed that, it went away. Like, it was a lot easier to work on it and improve myself because of that. And I did this in, like, I don't know, middle school. Like, I wasn't that old. You can do it whenever. Like, your brain is so powerful. You just have to make the conscious decision to do it. You know, you're in your subconscious mind. You battle that by using your conscious mind. And just watching this video is like the first step, because you are consciously making the decision or thinking about, is there something I need to shift in my life? And then two other things is to look at things with an outside perspective. So recognizing that, like, you know, maybe this scenario is a little bit difficult. So for example, let me think of your boss is telling you to do something, or your boss is making you guys go to a training or something, and you're like, I understand all of this. Why do I have to go? This is stupid. This is, you know, being negative about it. So looking at it from an outside perspective is like, you know, maybe why did my boss decide to do this? Maybe this training is really important for other people, and maybe, you know, you can't just have a few people go to it. You kind of have to have everyone. Like, maybe this training might not be super helpful for me because I already know it, but maybe it's really important for other people. So being aware of that and just really looking at something from an outside perspective, and with that, not looking at things black and white. I think that every single situation, there's more to a story. For example, I mean, I was just talking about this in class today. We were having an entire conversation, and it was amazing to see how we were looking at things like, no, it's not black and white. Like, nothing is, you know, that person who bullied you in grade school, yeah, that's terrible. And that doesn't excuse it, but maybe they were going through some stuff at home, you know? So, like, not saying that excuses anything, but like not looking at stuff black and white, taking it with a grain of salt and realizing there's probably more to this story. It doesn't necessarily excuse someone's actions, but it does make it a lot easier to understand, or to not take it as personally, or just, you know, shift your mindset on it. Once you begin to shift your mindset, the last step is becoming the best you. So really focusing on, okay, I've started shifting my mindset. What's next? How do I shift it to the way that I want it to be, you know? And this is where, when I did this and when I do this, I have quite literally sat down with a piece of paper and wrote down, who is it that I want to be? If there was this other version of me that was everything I wanted to be, what would she be like? She would be confident. She would be pretty positive. She would be the life of the party. She would be excited. She would have lots of emotion, just be really, you know, excited about things. She would know how to talk to people. She, like, you know, like, there'd be so many different things. And I'd really look at, like, okay, what is her mindset? How does she express herself? All these different things, right? So there's a very clear line between trying to become someone else and trying to become a better version of you. So this is not saying like, oh, you know, I like this person, I want to be like them. Like, no. We are saying, who is a better version of me? If this was me, what is a better version of it? Who is it that I want to be? Who is it that I know that I can be? All these different things. So, for example, we're not talking about like, oh, you know, well, if I was, a better version of me, I would have straight hair or something like that. No, we're not talking about those things. We're talking about the things that you can change and the things that are a better version of you. I can't change the way my hair grows out of my head. I can't change that, right? And I've learned to love my hair for what it is. What is it that you can change that is going to become a better version of you? So, for example, one of the things that I had wanted to work on a few years back was I wanted to improve my confidence. So what I did is I was like, this version of me would be confident, should be a confident human being, right? And I would look at my current scenario and I'd be like, okay, right now in this moment, what would that version of me be doing if she was here right now? And I was like, well, I'm walking through the hallways or something with a lot of people around. What would she be doing? She'd be smiling at people. She'd be smiling at even the random strangers. And so I challenged myself to do that. I stepped out of my comfort zone. So just by knowing, what is it that your goals are, you're able to shift those habits to align with that goal. So for example, in this scenario, like my subconscious mind was telling me like, you can't look at anyone. You just, you have to stay small, like I would always make myself really small without even realizing it. So my conscious mind, I consciously would look up and I'd be like, nope, I'm going to make myself big. I'm going to smile at people. I'm going to bring the attention to myself, even though probably no one's even going to notice. But to me, it felt like something really big. And then become that person. Surround yourself with people that inspire you to become that person, that, are proud of you for being who you are. Journal, meditate, learn to just love yourself and enjoy the process. Affirmations are a big one too. Those ones are also really helpful, again, in the morning or before bed. I'm not a big affirmation person. I wish I was, but I just have never really felt like it worked that much, but I know for some people it really does. So different things like that. I mean, just really challenge yourself to be that person. Just really challenge yourself to be the best that you can be. And ultimately that's our goal, right? We're trying to just become better people. We're trying to just become people that we want to be. We're trying to follow our passions. We're trying to shift that subconscious mind. We're trying all these different things. And in the end, also be kind to yourself, because you know what? Everyone makes mistakes. I cannot tell you how many mistakes I've made just in this video itself that I am editing out because no one wants to listen to me stumble over words. We all make mistakes and we learn from those mistakes and we try and figure out and find ourselves through those mistakes. And it's not easy. It's not fun, but being kind to yourself is really, really important. And it can really change the entire process. Those are my tips.